RMS-Safety, and you refresh. Okay, you should see one that comes up with just the RMS logo, and it should be saying live now. When you click on the RMS-Safety channel, then it'll show some uploads down below where it says channel description, and if you've refreshed again, it should show RMS-Safety Admin Orientation 11/17/16 live now. Oh, okay. Okay. I had a list here. Let's see what I had. Bill, Lionheart, Mark. Oh no. Sorry, those are the ones who are there. Tracy, Michelle. Oh gosh, I guess I didn't print that off. I don't have the others. Let me. Or maybe she sent it to me. Here we go. Tracy, Joyce, Teresa, Carol, Michelle, and Laura. 6 people. Yeah, that. No, I was gonna say I think it's showing additional. Okay, so now if I just switched over to the PowerPoint, are you guys all seeing the Premier Power Maintenance Safety Orientation Admin? It has a 10 to 15 second delay. Okay, so now if I just switched over to the PowerPoint, are you guys all seeing the Premier Power Maintenance Safety Orientation Admin? It has a 10 to 15 second delay. Okay, so now if I just switched over to the PowerPoint, are you guys all seeing the Premier Power Maintenance Safety Orientation Admin? It has a 10 to 15 second delay. Okay, so now if I just switched over to the PowerPoint, are you guys all seeing the Premier Power Maintenance Safety Orientation Admin? It has a 10 to 15 second delay. Okay, so now if I just switched over to the PowerPoint, are you guys all seeing the Premier Power Maintenance Safety Orientation Admin? It has a 10 to 15 Okay, so now if I just switched over to the PowerPoint, are you guys all seeing the Premier Power Maintenance Safety Orientation Admin? It has a 10 to 15 So now if I just switched over to the PowerPoint, are you guys all seeing the Premier Power Maintenance Safety Orientation Admin? It has a 10 to 15
Yeah, but that's not right. It shouldn't look like this.
See, that's how it was looking when we were testing it on my, I don't know why.
Just go. Just click here.
It usually pulls up a new one.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I meant
Okay.
the actual class. Or not that. Oh my gosh. Leah, get it together. The RMS page. Just click here.
Oh. It usually pulls up a new one.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I meant
Okay.
See, I do this one up here.
Do this one or that one?
Nope, the top one. This one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you are live.
Okay. Can each person that's logged into the Premier Power Maintenance Admin orientation give me a text to let me know if you can hear and see everything correctly on your side? My phone number is 317-450-7020, and I will give it a couple minutes here to see if I can hear from each of you. And now we'll see if this is what they're seeing. You should each see the Premier Power Maintenance PowerPoint first screen saying Safety Orientation Admin. Okay, thank you. Get me out of here. This sounds better. I hope you can see. All these things we've tested have never come across. Yeah, that was like so weird. Okay. I'll let you know if I have any more problems. Okay. Thanks. So far, I've heard from Joyce, Tracy, Michelle, and Laura that all of you are on, and now it sounds okay. I am so sorry for that mess. And now I just heard from Teresa, and she is good. I'm trying to remember, I thought I had 5 people. If at any time during the orientation you have any questions, please feel free to text me at that same number that I just gave you, and I will answer those questions at the end of the session. Since there's no interaction on the YouTube channel, just my presentation, I can't take questions as they arrive actually in the middle of the presentation. Okay, normally on the session format, we end up indicating that yes, this is a PowerPoint and it's scheduled for 1.5 hours, although I'm not sure if it'll last quite that long. We just ask that you have phones turned off or on vibrate so that there's no interruption on your side as well of answering phone calls and missing out on the training. We're going to start with general safety topics. Since this is the administrative, more of the office setting, there are still items that fall under general safety for you guys. The first one being bloodborne pathogens. Bloodborne pathogens are microorganisms that carry disease throughout the body. Anytime you are exposed to blood or bodily fluid of any kind, you need to treat it as if it's possibly infected material. When we say possibly infected, we're referring to one of these types of diseases that are carried through body fluids and blood. Bloodborne pathogens can come in through skin, mouth, nose, and eyes. It's important to wear the proper personal protective equipment if there is a chance of splattering into your eyes, getting on your skin by using gloves, breathing in or ingesting in any fashion, blocking those with masks or other devices to keep it from getting into your body. Bloodborne pathogens are found in this listing that you see here of the different areas. Now, not all bloodborne pathogens can be found in each of these, but these are the ways in which the majority can come into a person's body. Sometimes some of those can be transferred through the saliva, and in other cases, some of those will not actually infect a person through that method, that it has to be one of the other ways listed here. If you feel at any time that you were exposed or could easily become exposed to bloodborne pathogens, you need to talk to a supervisor to discuss. If you feel like you there is available paid by your company, the hepatitis vaccinations, which comes in a series of 3 shots. Due to the exposure and the time frame of when it could actually affect someone, you need to make sure that you speak to a supervisor as soon as possible after exposure so that you can get the vaccination series in a timely fashion so that it does help you from getting those shots. Again, you always want to treat any bodily fluid or blood as infectious. You want to avoid contact and report exposures immediately. This is where it's harder to visualize through just the PowerPoint presentation by doing it this way versus in front of a class, because I can walk through the proper removal of gloves. But one of the things that comes up a lot is that people say, yeah, I had gloves on, but then when I went to take them off, that's how I exposed myself. And so it's very important to know that if you indeed go that step of using the proper PPE here, gloves, you want to make sure that when you go to remove them that you're not exposed. Starting from the left top and going to the right and then down and then back to the left and down, it's showing the proper way in which to remove gloves. The best way to explain this is if you take your hand of one and pinch the palm of one of the gloves and move it down to where it's just on the fingertips of one hand, to where you can use those fingers now, because they're still covered with the glove, to do the same on the other hand to remove that one completely. And now when you go back to the first glove in which you were removing, you should have exposed the inner lining by moving it forward to just the fingertips, to where now when you touch that side to remove that glove, you are just touching inside and nothing that's been contaminated on the outside. I hope with looking at the pictures listed there and my description of what to do that helps explain the proper way of removing gloves. Electrical safety. When you look at this picture, it sure doesn't look safe, does it? Touching all the cables, being on a metal ladder at a big height. And I just got word that Carol is online as well, so that is good to hear. So now we have our 5, I believe. So for you guys, you kind of know, don't touch any of the live parts, like don't be messing with the fuse panels. You can plug in things at your desk. That's not the same as what we're talking about with live parts here. But what we do want to talk about is something of this nature, because this would affect you guys. I bet most of you know where this picture, what movie this picture came from. And now as we get close to Christmas and people start decorating their homes, offices, or whatever, with Christmas trees and Christmas lights, we have a tendency of seeing more of this going on in homes. And we want to make sure that you limit the amount of plugs in each outlet, and you never plug an outlet strip into another outlet strip. You can plug regular plugs into an outlet strip, and then that goes directly into the wall and not into another outlet strip. You want to make sure, we always want to make sure that things are grounded or that a GFCI is available. The biggest thing, I think, in the office environment that we run across is the use of space heaters. And we just want to make sure that with the space heater that you have it in a power strip that's GFC, that's ground, you have your GFCI on, that it's the type of space heater that if it tilts over, it shuts off, and that it doesn't keep going, and then that becomes a fire hazard. Extension cords are supposed to be used for temporary use only and not more of a permanent setting. And if you have to have cords that are running across an area, you want to make sure that you try to tape them down or use some kind of cover so that it doesn't become a trip hazard for anyone. The other thing is, if you do have to use any kind of extension cords, you want to periodically check them out to make sure that something hasn't happened to it to damage it to where there's any wires. With the use of like phone chargers, like I think about every house out there has cell phones now, and so we have cell phone chargers. I don't know how many cell phone charging cords I have replaced in my home where the wires, from constant use, the wires started protruding through the coating of the cord, and we had, my kids know, if they see that, tell mom right away, because we want to make sure that that doesn't become a fire hazard. Emergency response. Very important to be aware of and know what we do in case of fire and what we do in case of severe weather. With fire, you need to have a rally point so that everyone knows this is where we go in case of fire, so that we can all make sure that everyone got out okay. The two things that also go along with that is, how is it communicated to everyone that's in the building that there's a fire, we need to get out as soon as possible? Is it through an intercom? Is it through word of mouth? Is it through horns? So just having some kind of system in place for that communication. And then secondly, and I'm not sure, I know everyone's from a different office, but I'm not sure of the size of each of the offices, but the larger the place, too, it's very important to know who's been coming and going. What's very bad for firefighters is if there's a fire and you got all these employees and guests or whatever out in a parking lot, and they say, did everybody get out? And they say, I don't know who's there. Oh, is Joe still in there? And if they're told that everyone has escaped the building, then they're going to just work on the fire, of putting the fire out. But if they're told that someone was left in there, that you do not see them and they're in the building, then they're going to risk their life to go in and rescue them. And so it's very important to be aware of who is there and who is not, and who can be accounted for, to be able to tell the firemen truthfully what's going on, because you don't want them to risk their life if really there isn't anyone left in the building. With severe weather, it's important to know, again, how to communicate that, hey, there's severe weather, we need to take cover, and then also of where everyone is to go. Of course, again, the larger the building, you have to determine more of what floors use what restrooms, or if there's a basement, or other places that's been designated as safe zones in a facility. So it's always good too to have an emergency map that shows the facility and shows these are safe zones for severe weather. These are exits, and this is our rally point for fire. Again, all depending on the size of the facility as well. Ergonomics. This is the main one that affects people that are in the office more, and them sitting at desk. I fear what will happen as our society being so technology driven, and the use of tablets and iPads and cell phones constantly. It's very, very important that we try to be aware and conscious of how we are sitting when we're using any of the devices. Right now we're looking at a picture of a person at a desk. The very first picture there, you'll see that the lady's legs are pretty much parallel to the floor, and that's okay. We kind of like some slope, so there's no pooling of blood. You definitely don't want the knees higher than the hips, because you don't want pooling of blood into the hip area. But the other thing is, you see that she's leaning her arms onto the table to use the keyboard. I don't know how many times I see that, and it drives me nuts. Because you are putting pressure points on your arms. Usually I see the arms to where there's a pressure point about mid-arm from the edge of the desk. I have a feeling as we're going to be talking about this, that some of you will have that look of your face like, oh boy, here we go, or you start looking at your own workstation and go, uh-oh, because it happens. And it happens even after we do ergonomic assessments with people, that they tend to go right back to an improper position. The thing is, you will totally notice a difference in your back, your shoulders. There's so much you will notice if you actually do have proper setup at your desk. So it's very important, because you don't want carpal tunnel, you don't want back issues, the compressing of the discs in your back, and at the base of the neck. Those are the main areas of concern. So you'll also see the spine in the left picture and how it's curved. And what they've done here is they've moved the lady back. Now, I would say that her monitor could be moved forward to her closer than where it's at right now. Also, the monitor could be moved a little higher, but it's not too bad at the angle she's at right now. We're gonna see some more pictures of proper placement here in a minute. You'll see that they brought her chair up in height, either through the cushion that she's sitting on to give her more cushion that way, or also just raising the chair so that she's at the proper height. And then they've also given her a footrest so that she has something to have her feet on, because you never want dangling feet. Your feet should be on a surface. And they have the movable footrest to where you can constantly through the day just kind of move your ankles to where your feet kind of move and you have that stretching motion. Also in this right picture, she's got the lumbar support now. There are so many desk chairs out there that are not properly made for sitting in a desk all day or most of the day. So it's very important when purchasing desks, chairs, all of that is in consideration of who's going to be sitting here, and what their needs are. Okay, next picture you see is a gentleman on a laptop, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that when they use their laptop, or even at home, whether it's in business or home, that they kind of look like this. And right now he has pressure points not only on his wrist, because they're leaning up against the laptop, but also on his arms from the tabletop. Just another diagram of what poor posture is versus proper. This one is the use of a laptop, still, as we see in the picture above. But you'll see here, sitting tall, that now he's got more of a back support. His spine is alignment, not bowed. Everything, he's pulled his arms to whether his arms are not laying across the whole desk. And he's using a laptop adjuster to have the laptop in with an external keyboard to use so that it brings the monitor up to the proper height for him, and he can use the external keyboard to be able to bring his arms in the right position. Most common pain areas, as we were mentioning through some of the pictures we were looking at, the largest one is lower back pain. Neck being the second highest, shoulders, and wrist. It's always a good idea that if you are sitting to where you need to have, the way your station is set up, you need something because you can't help but you have your wrists or arms somewhat on a surface. They have the gel pads that you can utilize and test out and see, like height-wise and texture-wise, what is better, because it's better to have a soft pressure point versus the hard, rigid tabletop. The next picture shows some other things that we want to look at. So we've mentioned, keeping shoulders relaxed and the spine in alignment, the hands basically on the keyboard, but no arms or wrists laying on a tabletop. Lower back support, remember, lower back pain was the number one. Finding a chair with good lumbar, and if you don't have it, if the chair you have does not have good lumbar support, finding a lumbar pillow / cushion that attaches to the chairs to help with that support. You see the feet, the thighs, everything that we were talking about. With the screen clearance, and the screen view, top of the screen should be slightly below eye level. You can adjust it a little bit, like in the picture it's using the old style monitors, which some people still might have. The flat screens usually have an arm that allows us to adjust them more. But I have had multiple workstations where I have needed, I'm kind of a taller woman, and it seems like every time I'm set up somewhere, my chair is up higher, I have to have a footrest, and I usually have to have something to bring my screen to the correct height. The thing to remember is you can use things like reams of paper to bring a monitor. You don't have to actually purchase specially made equipment to do some of those things. Other thing to remember is if you're a person that wears bifocals, you do not want to have the screen at the same level as you would a person that doesn't wear bifocals, because you're having to raise you don't want to have to keep raising your neck, your head to look out the bottom through bifocals. You want to be able to just have your head at normal, relaxed position, and then be able to see the text without keep jerking your head back. So if you're noticing you have to do that a lot, then your monitor is too high. And if your desk is just that high, and so that's the way it works, you're going to have to get your chair to raise so that you can be higher than your monitor. And then if that means, well, now I'm dangling, now we need a footrest. So there's all those things that you just got to kind of make everything come into alignment, because especially as we're getting older, for each of us, that it's important that we don't put a lot of stress on those different parts of our bodies to where we're in pain or discomfort or long-term problems later. Okay, one last thing on the ergonomics, which I think most of us have heard over and over again, is proper lifting technique. If you're lifting a ream of a box of reams of paper or any other type of boxes or containers, make sure that you're using your legs when you lift and not your back. Next thing, fire prevention. Since you're not in front of me where I can say, okay, who knows, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Who knows the 3 ingredients of a fire? So hopefully each of you kind of are guessing on your own, and We're hoping that everybody gets it right with heat, fuel, and oxygen. You take one of those out, and you are able to control and eliminate the fire. Always be aware of designated smoking areas. As we mentioned earlier, there's the fire issue with space heaters, with tipping over or high settings. Of course, candles, even though we all, especially us women, love good scented areas that we work in, candles are not good. Now they have all kinds of other things that allow us to have constant in air and not deal with the fire hazard of a candle. And in case you didn't notice, I don't know that I've ever actually seen a bacon scented candle like the one in the picture. With fire extinguisher use, one of the things that we encourage people to do is check the gauges to make sure the needle is in the green area, and the tag. Every extinguisher should be inspected visually by someone in your workplace that you have there, and they should mark that on the tag that they visually inspected it such and such month, at such and such day. Then there's also the tag that gets replaced annually by a third-party person that recertifies the extinguishers to show that they verified everything is good and that this extinguisher should still do its job if needed. Operating your extinguisher, hopefully all of you remember the pass method, which is pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, that's the key there, the base of the fire, squeeze the lever, and sweep from side to side. This particular screenshot here shows, if you look at the time stamp on the left picture versus the right picture, you'll see that less than a minute went by, so probably like 15 seconds or something went by, and look at how the fire grew. Fire doubles every 60 seconds. So you want to make sure that you're either properly prepared with how to use an extinguisher, or if you are not, and one's not really available, just get out and get anyone out and let the fire department handle. We're going to get ready and watch a video. Actually, I have a couple of videos to show you of some fire extinguisher methods. So you're going to see us switch over from the PowerPoint to the video here shortly. If you cannot see the video when it appears here or here,
this is a new warning from FEMA prompted World News to create a test. There are 1,000 house fires in this country every day, some of them sparked by lightning from these storms, some from summer grills that hurl sparks. And of course, we all think we can grab a fire extinguisher, but FEMA warned most of us don't know how to use them. Do you? ABC's Elizabeth Leamy is our consumer watchdog.
This woman is trying to put out a house fire, and she's losing. Lucky for her, this isn't her home.
Heart pounding a little bit.
We told a group of homeowners we were doing a story about family fire drills, but it was a trick. Really, we wanted to see if they could work a fire extinguisher.
There's a fire now. Here, take the fire extinguisher. Go, go, go. See what you can do.
Firefighters say many homeowners have fire extinguishers, but most don't know how to use them.
Put it out.
Remember Carrie Braun? Look, it takes her an agonizing 10 seconds to pull the pin on hers.
I always thought it would be easy to use, and it's not as easy as you think.
Vincenetta Nello has a fire extinguisher at home, but was too far away from the flames for this one to do any good. So what did you learn?
To just get out. Get out.
The fire doubles every 60 seconds, so the longer it's delayed, the worse the fire is going to be.
And Rick Reyes got his extinguisher working, but then, right here, took his eyes off of the fire, a big no-no, as his wife Millie struggled with hers.
I thought it was kind of stressful, thinking of what is she doing, what am I supposed to do?
Ideally, one person should call 911 while the other mans the fire extinguisher. To use a fire extinguisher correctly, remember the acronym PASS.
All right, I'm going to try out the pass method right now. Here I go. I'm pulling the pin, aiming, squeezing the trigger, sweeping side to side, and sure enough, success.
But the best fire extinguisher technique you can learn is when not to use one. If the fire is past the very beginning stages and getting bigger, you should get out while you can. Elizabeth Leamy, ABC News, Mahwah, New Jersey.
Okay, the next video is rather interesting as well because it's showing some firemen doing a display on how to put a fire out.
Hundreds watch a fire safety exhibition. The first demonstration doesn't go so well. The extinguisher seems to spread the flames better than it douses them. Luckily, nobody gets hurt. Not yet. Fire and fear create chaos. There's too much fuel on the wood. The firefighter strikes a match. He's in go. He tries to shake the flames off his arm. Throws gas and fire on the spectators. Crews extinguish the blaze. Incredibly, no one seriously hurt.
Wow, can you imagine being the spectator and that happening to you? Oh, scary stuff. Okay, so that's the fire extinguisher piece. And now we will just talk kind of a little bit about first aid. Each of you should have first aid kits in your offices, and they should be stocked to where if you need a Band-Aid or whatever that you normally have in your particular first aid kit, because all first aid kits differ on what the company agrees to have within them. But you need to have it stocked and within so many feet of the workers so that if you have 2 floors, you might want a first aid kit on the first floor and the second floor so that a person's not having to run through the building to get to the first aid kit. Your employees are first aid and CPR trained. The question of what happens when you can't find a tool. Well, usually when we can't find a tool, we go and find something that might do the trick. So if you needed the chair to get up to a height, you might use the chair because you can't find the ladder. And of course, this chair on rollers would be a major no-no because of the movement, and if it's twirling or turning, and you could fall. Same thing happens when people need, and I am guilty of this too at home, when I need a screwdriver and I use something else because I'm like too lazy to go get the actual screwdriver. But it's important to use something that is not going to hurt you in the process of using it. Of course, the proper tool is what we need to use, not something else in its place. So even as a safety consultant, I know I've caught myself going, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just did this, because this is what I teach people not to do. So we're all human, just kind of pointing that out. But we want to make sure that we are using proper tool for the job. Well, this is regarding workplace violence and not allowing guns and knives or any kind of weapon at the workplace. We're going to watch a video here that talks about what to do in regards to workplace violence. And what is so sad is that we even have to talk about this, but it has increased in the last few years. And we think that, oh, I'm, where I'm at, I should be safe, but it could be an irate fellow relative of somebody that works with your company, a customer of yours that's irate, somebody that's just on a journey for destruction, and your building just happens to be where they're going by. It doesn't make sense anymore sometimes of just what the logic is that causes these issues. So I'm going to go ahead and start the video. So again, I'm going to switch over. Whoops. to that video. Run, hide, and fight. 3 things to remember in
It
workplace
may feel
violence.
like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Okay, well, hopefully none of us would ever be like the lady in the black dress with the red sweater, in which she was very loud and very upset at the moment. We want to make sure that we keep our calm, and I was thinking about those people in that room. They were probably like, "Will you please be quiet? You're giving our spot away. You know, you're gonna lead it right to us because you keep, crying and screaming and everything." So keeping calm, and even though that's hard at those times, but hopefully that video did a good job of explaining when to do each of those steps. Okay, now we're looking at just some general health safety items regarding like severe allergic reaction. Is kind of what we're looking at here, and even with the spiders, and making sure like facilities are, if you need pest control or anything like that, because there's a lot of bugs, because people might have different reactions to different types of exposures. So knowing that if someone has a high severe allergic reaction, of course bees are the number one you think of, but if you have someone allergic to peanuts, different dyes, gluten allergies, whatever it might be, it's always important for everyone to know that of those that you work by, so that if a potluck is done, or you are exposed unbeknownst to you, that if you have an EpiPen on you, that they know that you have that, and to get that for you so that it can be used right away. And then same thing like with diabetes and other types of diseases that could affect your behavior at work, or your alertness or consciousness levels, that people around you know, so they can be of assistance if anything changes with you, because they know to look for that you know what, this is not the way Jan usually is, and she's really grumpy, or she's not really that chipper that she usually is, and maybe they can check on you and know that that there might be something else going on. Hazard communication. Hazard communication is the standard with OSHA that talks about exposures to chemicals, and if we have health hazards, explosion hazards, flammable hazards, whatever it might be, we are supposed to know when we work with that particular chemical what the hazards are, and how we go about cleaning it off our skin, or if it's in our eyes, or whatever, that we know what's at hand. 4 routes of entry: inhalation, ingestion, absorption, and injection. So basically, getting it on your skin, a lot of people think, oh, I'll just go rinse it off with water, and that very well might be the thing, but it might be so strong that just even in that amount of time that you're going to have some problems. So knowing what those risks are, what the symptoms are. Also, there are certain chemicals out there, probably none that maybe you are exposed to within the workplace, that if you mix water with it, it actually makes it worse, that it will spread more. Always remember that if you were exposed to a dry chemical, like on your skin, that you do not rinse that off with water at first. At first, you want to brush dry chemical off, and then rinse off once that is done, because if you add the water to the dry chemical, you're just actually going to spread and make that a larger area. Premier has a written program. They have a chemical inventory list, which I believe that list and the safety data sheets are available to you online. I think that they just got that all taken care of. All your containers should have legible labels, and everyone should receive training. The HAZCOM is part of your regular safety program and available upon request. And as I mentioned, the inventory list and SDSs are available on every computer, sorry. Here is a chemical safety data sheet, just kind of showing what like the first page of one would usually look like. I'm actually going to run through a video that if you've went through this training with us before, you might have seen. It's through an organization called SiteHawk that does a really good job of making it interesting to explain a safety data sheet as about as interesting as you can get. So, and I always wish I was as creative as this person. So I'm going to go ahead and show that video. But before I do, I'll just go ahead and hit on this label content too. You'll see that we have these are called pictograms in the left and right hand corner with the red border. And then we'll talk about that in the video, but the pictogram displays what kind of hazards we're looking at here and then gives the hazard warning and manufacturing information. Also, if a chemical is actually called like ABC, but it's actually also known as more of a common name, you'll see that as well so that people know what they're dealing with. These are exempt from labels as long as they're used more in the standard usage that you would use at home. The consumer household products one is like, if you're using Windex as normal Windex, instead of mixing it with something else, you're using it in another larger quantity, then that would be different. There's a lot of companies too that even if they have Windex or toilet bowl cleaner or something of that nature, they still will choose to have an SDS on hand because it's a chemical. Okay. So now I'm going to switch over to this SiteHawk video to help explain what HAZCOM is all about.
In companies all across the United States, hardworking employees have jobs that may expose them to the dangers of hazardous chemicals in the workplace. The Hazard Communication Standard, nicknamed HAZCOM, was created by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration to protect and inform employees of potential workplace hazards. At its core, workers have the right to know the hazards of the materials in the workplace. OSHA recently finalized updates to this standard to make it easier to recognize hazard warnings on container labels and standardize the material safety data sheet. This updated standard, nicknamed HAZCOM 2012, aligns with the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling, introducing an internationally accepted set of label warnings in a standardized 16-section SDS format. Going forward, workers will not only know about potential hazards, they will better understand what the warnings mean, what to do if exposed, and how to protect themselves. Let's review the new labeling requirements. Every container of hazardous materials should be labeled with the appropriate signal word, pictogram, and hazard and precautionary statements. There are two signal words. Danger, used for the most severe hazards, such as mass explosion, extreme flammability, severe skin or eye damage, or fatality. The word warning will be used for less severe hazards, such as a fire hazard, or harmful to health, such as skin irritation, or narcotic effects causing dizziness or drowsiness. No signal word indicates minimal or no hazards. In addition to these two signal words, the new HAZCOM 2012 standard incorporates a set of 9 pictures, or pictograms, that denote specific hazards. Each pictogram will have a red border and include associated H statements describing the hazards of the material and P statements detailing the precautionary measures needed when using the material. Now, here's a quick run through each pictogram. The health pictogram indicates hazards to your health like internal organ damage, cancer, or genetic defects. Corrosion indicates severe skin burns or eye damage. Skull and crossbones means the material is fatal or toxic if swallowed, inhaled, or in contact with skin. The exclamation mark indicates the material causes skin, eye, or respiratory irritation, or is harmful if swallowed, inhaled, or in contact with skin. The flame indicates the material is a fire hazard. The gas cylinder indicates the material is under pressure and may explode if heated. The exploding bomb indicates the material is explosive and is a projection hazard. The flame over circle indicates the material is an oxidizer and can cause or intensify fire. The last pictogram, environment, communicates that the material is toxic to aquatic life. OSHA isn't making this symbol mandatory on labeling or the SDS, but manufacturers may choose to use it. The next significant change to HAZCOM is the standardized 16-section SDS format. OSHA has made the information in sections 1 through 11 and 16 mandatory. The information in sections 12 through 15 may be included, but is not mandatory and will not be enforced by OSHA. The SDS is intended to communicate the hazards of the material. The consistent format enables workers to access critical hazardous material information more efficiently. Let's review each of the critical sections. Section 1, Identification, provides the material name along with the supplier contact information, including emergency contact information. Section 2, Hazard Identification, summarizes the hazards, including signal words, pictograms, and H&P statements as described on the product label. Section 3, Composition, identifies the ingredients of the material, along with the concentration. Section 4, First Aid Measures, describes the initial care that can be given if an exposure occurs. Section 5, Firefighting, provides requirements for fighting a fire caused by the material or arising in its vicinity. Section 6, Accidental Release Measures, describes the appropriate response in case of a spill or accidental release. Section 7, Handling and Storage, provides guidance on safe handling and storage practices that minimize potential hazards. Section 8, Exposure Controls, provides recommendations to reduce exposure, such as PPE, personal protective equipment, such as safety glasses or gloves. Section 9, Physical and Chemical Properties, describes properties that can help to easily identify the material, such as color and odor. Section 10, Stability and Reactivity, describes the conditions that can cause the material to be unstable or reactive, such as exposure to air or water. Section 11, Toxicological Information, intended primarily for the health professional, providing health hazard testing and results. Section 12 through 15 are not mandatory under OSHA, but include 12, Ecological Information, 13, Disposal Considerations, 14, Transport Information, 15, Regulatory Information. Finally, the last mandatory section, Section 16, Other Information, provides details on the SDS preparation, including the date of the last revision. With this new system, workers in the U.S. and eventually worldwide will have the same simple, concise information they need to understand how to prevent injuries and illness and save lives.
Okay, hopefully each of you were able to understand and follow along with his quick drawing, but very good job of explaining each of the sections and what GHS HAZCOM is all about. Next is housekeeping. Of course, important to make sure that there's no water on the floor. Having good floor mats at the entrances and exits of buildings to where when someone walks in from it raining or snowing, that hopefully they're able to get most of that off their feet off of a mat and not walk directly on a more vinyl or tile floor and slip. The picture shows like one of the good ones that comes up a lot, especially if you have filing cabinets out in a walkway area. and somebody goes to grab a file out of one of the drawers and thinks, oh, I'm just going to look at this real quick and then I'll bring it right back. And if it's a tall one and they leave it open, somebody's going to smash their face into it as they walk around the corner, or they'll trip over it walking if it's a lower one. Always make sure that even if you just are taking it out for a short time, to put the file drawer back in its place, so that someone doesn't come around that's got their faces, their eyes are occupied elsewhere, and they don't notice the drawer being open. Of course, also any loose rugs or anything where somebody could snag on something, like we talked about earlier, the extension cords. When I say extension cord, that also applies to laptop or any other like computer cords that plug in that are kind of in the area of when someone's going to walk. Don't stack items in the front of exit doors, which seems pretty reasonable. And then people forget about electrical panels, because usually those are in an area where it's like, oh, that's like a storage area. We're just going to pile up stuff, boxes, whatever, out over in there. But you need to keep a 30-foot area in front of electric panels open to where people can go in and work on them. And then in case also if there was any kind of electric spark, that it's not right there to where more of a fire hazard as well. Fire extinguishers, if those are hanging up, well, even if they're not hanging up, if they're just sitting on the floor, you're supposed to have access to them by 3 sides is the rule of thumb. So if you have it on somewhere where they can't get to it from one side, but the other 3 are good to go, but it should be accessible by three sides. Also on stairways, anybody that has stairs in their personal home probably can relate to what I do a lot of times, of putting things on the stairs to take up when I go up, so I'm not up and down all day going up and down my stairs. But with that in mind, we also want, if you're going to do any of that you keep it to the side for home. For work, of course, we won't put anything on the stairs. For home, you still shouldn't put things on the stairs, but if you, like I said, keep it on the side. My hope was that my teenagers would like pick it up and take it up with them. And of course, that was just a dream, and they usually just go right by it. So I'm still the one to take it up, but I have that tendency of putting stuff by the stairs so that when I go up, I take it up with me. Okay, of course, I can't get your response if you've ever heard of the 5S system. It's a Japanese system that started after World War II that they use 5S words to kind of help sort and maintain and arrange whether it's files, equipment, data, etc. We're just going to do a little activity here to go over what the 5S is, kind of more of a representation of what it's about. So to start off, we're going to work through some clutter, and we're going to give you a task of counting 1 to 49. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to do so. And when I change the screen, you're going to see a bunch of numbers, and you're going to find the numbers in order, 1, 2, 3. So you need to find the path in which you find them. When we get done, if you still have my phone number handy, it's 317-450-7020. I would like to hear from you each of the times when I ask, like, what number did you get to? Because we're going to be kind of showing how we should be getting better, of course, by the end of this. So again, my number is 317-450-7020. And if you could say your name and what number you got to when we finish this first little scenario, I would appreciate it. And, okay, so the first thing we're going to do is sort or discard. So I'm going to show you the numbers, you're going to count, and then we'll go from there. Ready, set, go. Okay, so if each of you could text me your name and what number you managed to get to in the 20-second countdown as you were counting, you're trying to find each number 1 to 49. While you're doing that, I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so that was a mess, wasn't it? Very hard to do. We'll be seeing what everybody says that they got to here in a minute. But we can improve our sorting method, or our task at hand here, maybe that's the better way to put it, by sorting or discarding what isn't necessary. So I asked you to count 1 to 49, but 50 through 90 were also on that slide. So if we discard the ones that aren't needed for this task, we're going to go back through and have you look a second time for another 20 seconds and count 1 to 49 to see what you got to. I've had one person respond to me so far. Michelle said she managed to get to 4. Has anybody else gotten very far, or we'll see if now we got Joyce from in Alabama is at 8. I will be surprised if anybody got over 8 this first set, because I think when we did it in person, the training last week, I think that on the first go around, maybe 8 was the highest that somebody might have actually gotten to. Tracy doesn't give us a number. She just says not good at all. Well, if it helps any, Tracy, during the training last week, we had one person that couldn't even find 1. So if you were there, see, you're not alone. Okay, so I'm going to get ready and show you the screen again with just numbers 1 through 49. And I'm going to give you 20 seconds again to count down and see what, or count up, I guess, and see how many you get in 20 seconds. Ready, set, go. Okay. I'm hoping that was better. If you could text me again what you got that time after we discarded some, I would appreciate it. It's just playing along kind of helps us see that there was, we should be seeing an improvement. I've only heard from 3 out of, I think there was 5 or 6 of us. Let's see, 3. Okay, Michelle improved. Okay, well, Joyce, she improved too, very good, but it's funny because she asked where 12 was. We'll have to, I'm going to go back just real quick. 12 is upside down up towards the left corner, so that you can see that it indeed is on there. It's just that it was upside down. Okay. So now that we had one more person, I think. Tracy did better too. Very good. I'm not sure if we lost Teresa and Carol because I haven't heard anything from Teresa or Carol so far. Okay, so we discarded and everybody did better, but let's arrange the numbers. So the next set of S's is set in order or arrange. So as you can see on the screen, there's a grid. There's some black lines that show a grid of 9 spaces. You're going to start from the bottom to the top left to right. So bottom up to the top, then go over to the right, bottom up to the top, over to the right, bottom up to top. And in each of those quadrants, you will find the next number in sequence. So you should find 1 in the bottom left hand. You should find 2 in the middle left hand, etc. So as we start the clock, by putting and arranging them into this grid, let's see if it helps you find each of the numbers. Okay, let me reset. Ready, set, go. Okay. Now go ahead and text me how you did on that, just out of curiosity. And hopefully everyone is still improving. And you may not be getting, to that number 49 yet, but you should be improving from our discarding to our arranging. And now we're going to do, we're basically, the shine clean option doesn't work for our particular task at hand, so we're going to jump to the standardize or method, putting a method to it. So we're going to actually put our numbers in the numeric order in which they should be in, 1 to 49, in the fashion in which they showed up in the mess of numbers. And so if it was upside down or sideways or whatever, large, small, whatever, that's how you're going to see it. Yay! Michelle doubled her last number. Joyce doubled her number. And, Teresa and Carol aren't able to respond via text. Okay, so that's why we haven't heard from Teresa and Carol. And Laura, Laura had 11. Okay, yep, sorry, Laura, on that. Okay, so again, I'm going to start my clock to 20 seconds. Ready, set, and again, you're counting 1 to 49. Go. Stop. Okay, everyone, whoops, I'll go back. Everyone should have gotten through our 1 through 49. So to just kind of review, we discarded the numbers that weren't pertinent to the task at hand. We arranged the items that we had. We kind of put a method to the madness. And then the last key one would be to sustain and maintain that system that you've put in place. So hopefully that was just kind of a fun way to kind of describe what the 5S method is. Lockout tagout awareness. For your guys that are out in the field for your company, this is a huge one for them because they are exposed to high electric and other things that are of high concern and hazard to them. Anytime you're around something, whether it's electrical, steam, gas, water, whatever that could cause energy, if it is to be locked out so that no one is touching it or whatever at the time because they're working on it, and you see a tag, then you know do not touch or turn on or anything because there is someone possibly working on it and it's tagged out at the time. Eye protection. I'm not sure in the different facilities that you guys are in, but I know in the one in Indianapolis, the workshop, if you go into the workshop, they require safety glasses 100% of the time. Basically, if you're in any kind of environment in which there is any kind of items that might fly or get in the air to where they could get into your eyes, you want to have safety glasses on. My son has has been mowing for us, and I'm always telling him, make sure you have some sunglasses or safety glasses or something on when you're mowing, and of course never listened to me until one day he came in and he's like, Mom, I need your help. I've got a wood chip in my eye from when I was mowing, and luckily there was no damage, and we were, after a while of working on it, we were able to finally get it to come out. But reason why, if there's any kind of exposure to the eye, you should always protect your eyes. Signs and tags. If a sign is there, there's usually a reason. If anybody has seen the sign on the left before, in real life, that's pretty interesting, but be careful. This machine has no brains, so use your own. Actually, there's a few people that I know that should kind of carry a sign like that. Oh my gosh. Anyway, caution, wear gloves in this area. Danger, follow confined space entry procedures before entering. These are just some examples of different ones. Anytime you see caution, it means you can proceed, but with caution, danger means stay out, stay clear. If anytime there are signs around, please follow them. Make sure that if anything happened, that they came down, they fell down or something, that somebody gets them back in place right away. Okay, that was the general safety topics. And now we're just more onto what they call the administrative topics. With regarding substance abuse, we want to make sure that that you don't, of course, do drugs or alcohol, and especially on company premises. If you are on any kind of prescription medicines that could affect your alertness and anything like that on the job, we ask that you please speak to your supervisor so that they do not put you in any kind of risk. Oh. And right there, report medications that may cause impairment. Of course, with the substance abuse policy within Premier, we do pre-employment, quarterly, random, annual testing, reasonable suspicion, which means that a supervisor or management has noticed some kind of behavior that's questionable and kind of throws up a red flag with regarding substance abuse. And so a reasonable suspicion test might be asked to be done, and then post-accident. In any kind of incident that happens, they want you to report it immediately, even the minor ones and near misses. You guys report near misses, so even if an actual injury did not occur, but it could have, you were just very lucky, then it's still to be reported, so it can be reported as a near miss and discussed with other people so that it doesn't happen to somebody else and they're not as fortunate as you in coming through with no incident. Vehicle accidents, property damage, uncontrollable hazards, all of those to be reported. Injury care, you need to be treated by their physician, which is occupational health clinic, if it's work-related. If it is work-related and you go to someone other than their physician that they have designated, the failure to do so may result in an employee paying their bill. Medical records are kept at the office. Length of employment is, or the records, medical records are kept for the length of employment and an additional 30 years after that. At any time someone needs to see those records, it's only given with written consent. The two things that Premier has zero tolerance on with regarding disciplinary action means like zero tolerance would be termination from drug or alcohol abuse and invalid driver's license. Those are two things that they stand on. Also, with the disciplinary action, they have a tiered system of verbal, written, suspension, termination. But at any time, if due to the circumstances they feel that, you know what, we're not dealing with this anymore, or we've had other issues, this is termination, they have that right to do that. But normally it goes verbal, written, suspension, and termination. Okay, that does our training. That finishes our training. And again, since we can't talk back and forth, now that we are done, and I'm going to be disconnecting, if you have any questions and want to text me, I would greatly appreciate you texting in 317-450-7020. And I appreciate all of you playing with me in the game of the number game to where you were texting me your numbers so that we could see that how everybody is doing. Also, I probably will talk with Kelly about getting the checklist, the orientation checklist to you so that you can sign them, and then I sign them and we put them in the file to show that you actually completed that training. So stay tuned on that part, and I hope that the video and the sound feed has been fine this time. I am so sorry for the problems that we had last week. I had practiced this so much before I did it, and then didn't know when we had to connect an external monitoring, monitor, that it was going to cause those kind of issues. So I apologize for all of that last week, but hopefully today's went better besides the very beginning. And I hope each of you have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you for participating. Goodbye.